Welcome to the YINZER Brothers podcast. I'm TJ. I'm here with my brother Tim, who is coming remote from Disney. We call him the shawarma master. And then also, look there's his father-in-law right there. He's at Disney right now. And we also have producer Ty is with us. Tim on location from Disney. We're breaking down the Steelers Bronco game this week. We're also going to talk a little bit about the Falcons from last week. Tim, before any of that stuff, tell us a little bit about your experience so far in the land of wonder that is Disney.
I have been sweating nonstop for 4 days straight.
Well, Tim, you're a big guy. I mean, that's just what's to be expected. You're a big Greek.
TJ, I bought 14 fans and none of them are working. None of them. None of them.
So what has your experience been down here? Give us an idea of what Disney's like this time of year.
It's hot. It's humid and hot.
Yeah. But what are the food prices? Are they affordable there in the parks?
No, not at all. Everything's $1 million. I have no money. None.
But are you having a good time,
room?
Tim?
Excuse me?
Are you having a good time?
No, not at all.
Well, this might be a preview because I don't know if you guys know this or not, but the YINZER Bros, we are going to be in Vegas when the Steelers play the Las Vegas Raiders later. And Tim, I don't know if you remember, but last year we were at that game too, and it's in the desert.
It's a dry heat. This is a moist heat. Just bad.
It's also indoors. Let's just remember that it's
That's
indoors.
I'm not going to lie right now. I'm in the air conditioning waiting for Mickey, Minnie, or Donald and the rest of the crew. So it's not bad right now, but normally it's not.
Yeah. Well, while we have you right now, give us real quick, Tim, your impression of the Steeler game last week. Now, you did pick a loss and you were wrong, but give us your impression of the game last week. The Steelers.
It was everything. It was ugly. It was ugly. It was an ugly thing.
Did anybody impress you? Did anybody not impress you?
I thought TJ Watt was a game wrecker, like I thought he would be. Justin Fields played okay. Line did well. It wasn't bad.
Anybody surprise you in the game, Tim?
Their secondary.
Yeah.
Their whole entire secondary.
Yeah, they look good. I mean, Beanie
Yes.
Bishop, I'm still a little out on Beanie. I don't know. We'll see what he's. Anybody that's named after a hat, I'm not sure if I'm a fan. We'll see.
Yep. I mean,
okay, Tim, we're going to let you go from Disney. Any parting words?
I mean, I'm about to hug Goofy in about
Have fun.
3 minutes. So
Have fun.
I'm going to give a little prediction. I'm going to think the Steelers are going to roll this week. Roll.
Yeah. What's the
I'm
score?
going to say 24-10.
24-10. Okay, you heard it here, guys. YINZER Bros podcast. Tim, have a good time at Disney.
I'm out, boys. Have a good
Have
fun.
fun.
See you.
We'll try our best.
Tim at Disney. Now, what's going to be funny is see if he can actually shut his feet off. I don't know if he can
Still
shut his
number
feet
one out here.
Tim
We'll see if
figuring
he
out
knows how to
how
work
to
it.
shut it off. He's actually gone. That's great. So you got a little snippet of Tim for everything is. So Ty, it's me and you today. Before we talk about the Broncos and the Steelers, let's break down a little bit about the Steelers and the Falcon game. Ty, what did you think about the Steelers' opening performance last week?
I'll be honest. I was surprised at how well they played. Actually, I was concerned, honestly, for both sides of the ball. Not because our defense isn't good, but I think the secondary towards the end of the year was a little shoddy. I think Joey Porter Jr. is the truth for sure, but I think the rest of the positions were a little up in the air. Our D line looked a little suspect last year towards the end of the year. But I think all in all, both sides of the ball played really well. I was pleasantly surprised by Justin Fields in his game management and the ability to just process the game that way. Wasn't stellar by any means, but I think he got the job done the way that he needed to. As I look at like stats here, I think Naj had a great game too. And so when you kind of look at it all in all, it seemed like we played a pretty complete game, even though we didn't score a point, which is crazy. But
I mean, but we were there. I mean, we didn't score any touchdowns, but they positioned it. They moved the ball pretty well.
Yeah.
They had time of possession, like you said. And even when you think about it, I mean, Fields wasn't with the ones all week. They threw him
Yeah.
in toward the end of the week, so I'm kind of curious to see what happens this week when he gets one stuff. I thought he looked pretty good for not being with the ones. Did
Yeah.
anybody surprise you at all?
I think honestly, I think Justin Fields did. Like
Yeah,
it sounds like a really cliche cop out, but like the reality is like I think what I've been saying all offseason is I don't think we saw enough of Russ in the preseason and we kind of knew what we were going to get with Justin Fields. And I think because he wasn't declared the starter, I think we kind of just thought, well, it is what it is. And then he becomes the starter, and then you're kind of like, oh gosh, preseason was pretty rough a little bit. So what do you get with Justin Fields with the ones? And I think he surprised me on the side of the playbook seemed to be way more opened, and whether that was by design for him to run or if he was just making things happen. Like if you think to like Kenny Pickett, man, like Justin Fields did things in week one that Kenny couldn't do in 2 years, which
yes,
is crazy. And to be able to manage the clock enough where I think the biggest thing that surprised me this year was the amount of time the defense didn't have to be on the field. That was crazy. I don't think that we've seen a rested TJ Watt like that in a long time. And he showed that. And so I think for me, Justin Fields really stood out in the way of, even if Russ does start this week and he looks really, really great, I feel comfortable with Justin Fields as a number two now. Whereas I think in the preseason, I think we kind of, with both of them, we're kind of like, are they both ones? Are they both backups? We don't know. So it felt good though.
yeah. No, I agree. For me, a couple of the guys that really stood out was, man, that kid that they traded for Deontay Johnson. What's his
Yeah.
Jackson? Is that his name?
Yeah. Yep.
I'll tell you what, he looked
Yeah.
great. And even I like the
Good
depth
ball.
on defense now because you had Joey Porter Jr. and then you're bringing in Trice. That those guys,
Yep.
our secondary played very well. I think Tim alluded to that. And I'll tell you what, you pay the man, you pay Cam.
Yep.
Cam resets the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
He looked great. I thought our defensive push was great. Watt looks like he's on another planet,
Yep.
which is great. And even the speed of Wilson as an inside
Yeah.
linebacker, I was very
I
impressed with him.
was surprised that we didn't see him as much as I thought we would, just because of the speed factor. When he was in, man, like it felt like he played maybe every other 7 plays. And when he was in, he's flying around, and you're like, why is he not playing? I was a little disappointed in Highsmith. I didn't think he really played that well of a game.
No,
It's tough when Watt's rested. And so I think you really do see a discrepancy. Like when he's ready, you see how far apart they still are. Cause I think that there was some time where people thought, oh no, he's getting close. I'm like, he's nowhere near Watt.
no,
But when you see it in that context, I think Alex Highsmith didn't have a great game. I don't think he really got the push that we really needed on the right side there. So I think hopefully we see that fixed this week. But I felt also, I felt like Pickens. Um, I got nervous at the beginning of the game because there were a few plays where he just wasn't looking like he could be that guy. And then, man, it's crazy when he turns on, he went absolutely berserk, and I'm like, maybe he can be that guy. I think we need to find another guy
I
who
agree.
can kind of distract some, can hopefully space the field a little bit more for him. But even when you give him a 50-50 ball, it's nuts. So it seemed like we played a complete game except for when we were in the red zone, which
No, I
is a
agree. I
pretty
agree.
important part. But
I think when you look at the offensive side of the ball too, like you said, I was very surprised, pleasantly surprised with how the line played. I thought they did good. Dude, I'll tell you what, our center, I tell you what,
yeah,
yeah, West Virginia, I don't know if they keep pumping him out like that. He was mauling people.
I
Uh,
know.
uh, Washington was mauling people.
Yep.
I thought that again, I think our offensive, to me, the offensive stud and star was Arthur Smith. He actually had a
Yeah.
game plan.
Yeah.
I agree with you with George Pickens. I think George showed you that he could be elite because all they had to do was kind of shut him down, and they couldn't.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, Justin Fields really, I think when you give him time and you give him a scheme, he really impressed me. He's got a hose for an arm.
Yeah.
Obviously he's fast, he's quick, and he's way more athletic. People forget this. He's actually younger than Kenny Pickett.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, so I'm curious to see if he continues to build on that, what his confidence looks like. I thought offensively, those are the guys that really surprised me. Again, I agree with you. We need another wide receiver. Van
Yeah.
Jefferson, he showed me he's not the guy.
Yeah.
He
Well,
can't get
and
separation.
hopefully we get Roman Wilson back this week. It seems
Yeah.
like he practiced, so maybe that helps. I would love to see maybe like a Calvin Austin used a little bit more in that slot a little bit more frequently. I think the speed is dangerous because it spaces things out. I will say, I think the one unspoken guy, as I look here, Minka had a crazy game, man.
He did.
He
He
had
did.
7 tackles. He had 7 tackles alone. Like I think we forget how good Minka is when you start to surround him with pieces that help to elevate a defense properly. Um, I do think too. I think the one thing that I was really enjoying about seeing Naj this year is because we didn't pick up that 5th year. I think he's running, man. Which I think there's still some stuff where he doesn't always hit the hole the way that I
He
think
dances a little bit
a
too much for
six
me. And just
four
yeah,
a
just run
million pounds
downhill. Yeah.
man does. But you can tell that he's playing for something right now. And so hopefully I think if we could put it together. I think my worry with Justin Fields a little bit is the reading the defense part. I think once he gets through that first check, it seems like he's checking down or he's running, which I think for now works because he's young, he could run. But if he puts it all together and he could read us and he could read the defense efficiently, I think I don't see why he couldn't start and us feel comfortable. It's way different than like when Kenny started. I think we felt comfortable because it's all we had. But when you had to put Mitch in there, it was such a drastic drop. And I
He is
don't
so bad.
feel he's so bad. And I don't feel that way this year. Where like
No.
I think Russ, if he plays, I think he'll be solid because it's Russ. And at least week 1 showed us that Justin Fields can play. So
I agree. And I think too right now they're saying Russ, they're saying he won't play this week. He'll be probably an emergency. He's questionable.
yeah,
And then they're also saying that, we probably won't see him the week. He won't be for the opening either for
yeah,
what the Steelers are doing. So I think that, we'll see what happens. I'll tell you what, again, sneaky pickup, good pickup was Elliott. Holy cow.
yep,
He's a great pickup too.
oh
So the
yeah,
Steelers came away with the victory. It wasn't pretty, but they got the victory. They were dominant. They dominated time of possession. Like you said, kept the defense rested. All that was good. So then we move on to the Broncos this week. The Broncos are
yeah,
coming off a loss to Seattle. Scores
yep,
26-20. That score's a lot closer than the game was. They got
yeah,
just mauled
yep.
by Seattle. Bo Nix, who I'm sorry, I think Sean Payton is an arrogant turd, and I think that some of the
I think
game
he's
has
a
passed him
fraud.
by. Yeah, I do too. So the guy he picked over Russ Wilson, don't need him
Mm-hmm.
anymore. Bo Nix, these are his stats. He was 26 or 42, 138 yards. Think about that. He had 26 completions, 138 yards, 2 picks. I think his QB rating was like 49 or 52 or
Yeah,
something like that.
yep.
It was absolutely ridiculous. And you ready for this? Nix also led the Broncos in rushing with 52
Yeah,
yards,
yeah. I'm staring at
which
it right
tells
now
you
too.
all that you need to do. So before we talk about
Crazy.
them, let's jump into the Yinzer mailbag. What is the Yinzer mailbag? It's when you, the fans, get to ask the Yinzer
Oh
Bros
yeah, baby.
or the Yinzer and the Yinzer kids anything you want to. If you want to email us anything, you can email us at yinzerbros@gmail.com. And if you're lucky enough, you will get to read your question on the air here. I got 3 things in the Yinzer mailbag. The first is this. It's a good question. We were just talking about this. What kind of game does Fields needs to have in order for him to be the future QB of the Pittsburgh Steelers? What do you think?
He needs to read a defense. I think if the game plan. So what they were saying is that Arthur Smith's game plan didn't really change too much between Russ and him. So if that's the game plan, and what we saw on week 1 is that game plan, and Justin Fields can manage that plan, the only next step is we got to get the ball in the middle of the field. We got to
Yeah.
be able to throw the ball. And he has the arm. I think he has the tangibles to do it. He just has to read a defense. I think that there were we saw a lot of great passes. But again, the chart that I saw afterwards is that we we didn't throw a single pass between the hashes. And I'm like,
Now, did you hear literally
eventually,
Arthur Smith? He addressed that. He said that that was
yeah.
the game plan. They wanted to keep it away
Mhm.
from, was it Bates or somebody?
Yeah, yeah,
Thinking
yeah,
Bates was their
yeah.
guy.
Yep, yeah. But still, like at some point, you have to be able to test it a little bit.
Yes.
And I think for the sake of Justin Fields' development, to be able to read a defense, like you can't sit there and just go, well, I don't know if Fields could read that. I don't know if he could discern it properly. So let's just stay here. So for me, I think for him to be that guy, I think he's young enough to be that guy. I think he's got to take the step above RPO. I'm just going to do that to, can I actually read a defense as a NFL pro caliber quarterback the way that like a Mahomes can? Not going to say that he's going to be that guy,
Well, that'd
but
be
I
great.
think that that would be the goal. I think that is the night and day difference between like elite and not. Is, are you able to read a defense properly and get through like 3 or 4 checks? But
Yeah, I agree. No, I think that's a big thing. I would like to see too. I think what will help him is going to be also his ability to be a consistent passer. We
yeah,
see flashes of stuff, but him being able to make things. Now, to my recollection, and maybe you can correct me on this, I don't remember seeing any open receivers that I saw. I was like, oh, he missed that guy. So I
no,
think he did a decent job. And again, there's a double-edged sword. That also means this: maybe Pickens was the only one who's getting open, and Fryermuth every
yeah,
once in a while. So
yep,
maybe
yeah,
maybe the guys couldn't get any release, but that's a good one.
yeah.
Let's see what else is in the Yinzer mailbag. Um, why isn't Jones starting? Well, that's interesting. So they released this week that right now it looks like that you're going to have on the right side the new guy. Was that
Mm-hmm.
Futanu, or is that his name?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
then on the left side, it's going to be Danmore Jr. again. What
Yep.
have you seen out of Jones this year that would justify any of this stuff? We thought he was the tackle of the future. I don't know. What
Yeah.
do you think?
Well, I think the first core issue, and this is probably just more so with Mike Tomlin, and this is a disagreement that I have, is in training camp, Jones was respectfully, but very vocal about like he's been playing like 4 different positions. So he didn't play 4 different positions in college. So I think what we're seeing is that I think he's young. He's trying to learn 3 different positions, and it may be getting to him to maybe it's
Yeah,
affecting the way that he's playing. I think he's a true left tackle, and we will not move on to let him be the left tackle of the future. We keep sticking on the right side and just hoping that it pans out. But I think you know just as well as I know that left and right tackle are 2 completely different
they are.
positions.
Everything's different. Your feet are
Yeah.
different. Everything's different.
And so for me, I think like that was what was said for all of last year, right? Was okay, he's this guy, he's this guy, he's this guy. It's the left side, the left side, left side. And we've not seen him in the left side. So for me, I just don't understand why we're not making a little bit of movement in that space of going, hey, maybe let's put him at the natural position that he played in college and he was very successful. That's why we drafted him.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not starting this week. I think my guess would be that whatever they saw in the game in week 1, which he was pretty bad, constituted enough for maybe his mental is a little shot right now. I don't know. He's 20, he's 23, he's 24. I mean,
He's young. Yeah.
at some point we have to look at it the same, like in the same scope that like he's young, maybe he's still learning who like he is. And then you take all the things that he's known for the last 5 years and go, we need you to do 7 different things than that one thing. I feel like it would be like taking Pouncey from the center position and putting him in like guard, or
Yeah.
like it just
he's
won't
not
work.
shown the Pouncey pedigree
No,
yet. Pouncey's pretty
no,
ridiculous.
he's not.
I agree with you. Now he's a little dinged up too. I think maybe part of it, but one of the things that I'm noticing, he doesn't seem as aggressive this year as he was in the last couple of
Yeah.
years. So I think that speaks to your point that I think maybe he is. You know this from playing football. Both of us played football back in the day. One of us is a Hall of Famer. I won't let you know who it is, but
It's not me.
when you don't know what you're doing, you
Yeah.
play slow and you play unsure. And he seems like he's
Mhm.
playing on his back feet instead
Yeah.
of playing on his toes, on the back of his
Yeah.
heels. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens with that. Here's the last question in the Yinzer mailbag this week. Will the Steelers make a play for another wide receiver, or is that done? Now, this week we had a couple, a few things talking about some teams that are already, it's so funny to me. 1 week's
I
down,
know.
everybody's losing their mind, and people are
I
jumping off the
know.
boat. But they did mention again, some stuff's been happening with Vegas. They got a
Hmm.
couple wide receivers there, actually two decent wide receivers that may be on the move.
Yeah.
They've always mentioned Houston and stuff like that. Do you see the Steelers making a play for a wide receiver? And does anybody pop onto your in your mind as far as somebody that we might be able to grab?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't see the Steelers making that move at this point. But if they were to do that, I think the two names that pop into my mind would be like Cortland Sutton.
Yeah,
I think
playing him this week.
yeah. I think that's a name that was really hot in free agency. I don't know if he's necessarily happy out there right now. Um, I know that we were in talks with him a little bit, but it just didn't pan. And then I would say that like Houston is in a weird spot right now where CJ Stroud is young and talented and gifted, and they probably gave him the worst possible receiver you could do that. Excuse me, with which would be Stephon Diggs, who
Yeah,
is he's gifted and talented, but he's a cancer. We
he's
saw
a
that.
cancer and a
Like
diva.
it
Yeah,
just is. And so like well, if I have Diggs or Nico Collins, I'm taking Nico Collins all day long. But so maybe that's a space where Nico Collins sees that too, and maybe he's like, "Hey, I want out too." I don't know for sure. I just don't see the Steelers making a move like that unless Khan is trying to like really kick up dirt in the history of the Steeler dumb of not making monumental moves like that. I know Minka was like really the only one. Um, I know that we've talked about this. I personally think that Omar got stuck in a position where I think we put all of the eggs in the Brandon
have you heard the story about that? The recent
Ayuk
story to
stuff.
where like literally he
Yes, where
was.
he was basically not going to leave anyway.
Yeah, no. But before that, what they said, now that was all in his head. They didn't know that. They literally, he was getting ready to, he happened to come to the facility that day. They were
Yeah,
finalizing the trade with the Steelers when he happened to show up. And then literally he said, Coach, I want to stay. And
yeah.
literally the coach ran upstairs to the front office and said, put the phone down real quick. And they spent a
Dang,
couple hours with him. So literally, but
that
here's the
sucks.
reality. You see him drop that pass. Did you feel, who did not feel
No,
great to
I
see him drop that
yeah,
touchdown
no.
this week? I felt that was great.
It was amazing. It was awesome. But it sucks because I think we our name was in there for so long and we knew that price tag was going to be like
Oh, yeah.
38 to 40. So that just took us out of talks with anybody else. And so what I've been kind of thinking through is I know that there were three other receivers on the practice um, squad now, and the one receiver that stuck out to me in preseason was Des Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
He's a tall, long guy. Um, I feel like if there was a reason to bring somebody up, I would bring up a guy like that, mostly because I think you were hoping that that's what Van Jefferson gives you.
Yeah.
But I think we saw that with him and the Rams last year is I think the only reason maybe he got the deal that we gave him was because when Cooper Kupp was hurt, that's all they had until
Yeah.
Puka came out of nowhere.
And he's
And
done
so
for the year
then
now
I
too,
think,
isn't he?
yeah, it was nuts. And so last year, I think he was just kind of force fed balls. So you're like, okay, Van's solid. Van looked Van looked bad at football.
He couldn't get any separation. No, he
It
looked
was so
bad.
bad. And so for me, I don't know if we'll make a move. If we did, I could see a Cortland Sutton or maybe like a Jacoby Myers.
Yeah.
I don't think Devontae Adams, as much as he's complained, I don't think he's going to leave Vegas just because he's a true number one and they'll pay him whatever he wants. But Jacoby Myers is young, up and coming. Maybe he doesn't want to sit back there a whole ton of time. I don't know if we would make a move. I suspect just because being a longtime Steelers fan, I would suspect that we're probably just going to run with who we have. and maybe a guy will make an appearance off the practice squad. But if we did, I wouldn't. I feel like we would make a big splash. I don't think it would just be a, hey, we're going to trade for this dude who could fill a fourth
No,
spot, and we'll give them a fifth and sixth rounder.
I think they'll go for a true number two or a number one. And then I think you would have like a one or a one and a 1A.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of maybe grabbing somebody with, from the Raiders or somebody like that.
Yeah.
And I think I can see, I could see Khan, making a deal to do something like that. So I think they're going to make a move. I think, especially if they get out of the gate here and they're like, 5-1 or something like that. I
Yeah.
think I can see them actually saying, okay, we're going to put some chips into the table here. And who knows? They do have some assets that are interesting.
Yeah.
That people may want, but again, it's all about draft picks
Yeah.
too. Cool. That's all that's in the Yinzer mailbag. If you like what you hear, you want to submit anything, you can email us at yinzerbros@gmail.com, and then we'll talk about your stuff. Let's talk about the Broncos. Ty, do the Broncos scare you at all?
Not one bit.
Yeah, they're not very scary.
Not at all.
I mean, their defense does not look that great. Their
No.
offensive line looks like a strainer. Bo Nix is not good at football.
I just it's nuts because when you even look at the stats, man, like the Seahawks are not that great.
They're not
at
they're not a
football.
juggernaut. No.
And when you look at these numbers, dude, like Kenneth Walker had 103 yards. Smith ran for 30 yards. Smith missed 7 passes only. He threw for 170 yards. Like I just we're
What was he like? Was he like 17 for 25 or something like that?
He was
or?
18 for 25.
Hey,
Like
if we get a Justin Fields performance like that,
I
I'm fine.
know that's
Throw
what
a
I'm
tutty,
saying.
25
And for me,
passes.
I'm just thinking like I don't see a world how we're not better than the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Even though we couldn't score a point to save our lives on offense, I just don't see us being worse than the Seahawks. And the Broncos didn't show me anything. I think Bo Nix maybe has the ability and the stature and the frame to be a good quarterback. I just don't. My opinion is that I think Sean Payton is destroying that team. I just don't think his system works. I think you need a Drew Brees, which hello, Hall of Fame quarterback. I think you need a Drew Brees to operate the way that he wants you to operate a team. And even if you get a guy like Drew Brees, i.e. Russell Wilson, for some reason, Russ could not get that thing going either. So what's us to think that like Bo Nix is going to change that? I don't think it's going to happen. But I think Bo Nix gives you a better chance just because of his frame and just the athlete he is. I just think the team collectively just isn't good at football. I don't know what else to say. I don't think that defensively they really have any, like standouts except for probably Surtain.
Yeah.
And that's about all you got. So
how do you think that our defense will match up first with their offense? I mean, you mentioned Bo Nix. They don't run the ball very well. Their line isn't very good. What do you think is going to be? How do you think the Steeler defense is going to handle their offense?
Well, if we look at rushing just right off the bat, as you said, Bo Nix leads your rushing with 35 yards, you're in big trouble. Big trouble, especially against an experienced D line like the Steelers. I think this is a game where we have to see Patrick Queen. We have to see those guys hit him in the hole and not allow anything to get going. I think in the same way that we saw with Baltimore, I think like when Lamar gets going, it's really hard to stop him. And Bo Nix gives me a little bit of that vibe of if he feels confident in his running ability, he might be able to get going. So I think our goal is that we have to contain him. He's not a run first guy, but he can move. We have to contain him, but more importantly, we can't let somebody else's legs beat us if Bo Nix's legs aren't going to beat us either. And that's kind of where I think I'm not really afraid of him throwing the ball. I think it speaks volumes that collectively the other 3 running backs had, what is that, 60 yards total
It's
combined
crazy.
rushing. Like, if we can keep the ball behind the line of scrimmage, stop them there, I don't see how they match up with us at all. Like, I don't see a single person on this team that matches up well against us. And I think that just speaks volumes to how the Steelers defense have been for the last, 15 years. But
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you are willing to drop Bo Nix back 46 times,
yeah,
I mean, TJ Watt, Herbig, those guys should be
yeah.
licking their chops because
Well,
you'll get
and
him killed. You can't
yeah,
back him up there 46 times.
when it's
How
not
many
going to
times
matter.
is he going to be in the backfield? It's just going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, and that won't matter if you can't run the ball.
No,
So if Bo Nix has 35 yards here and the next closest is 27 yards, no wonder he threw the ball a million times.
Yeah.
You can't get anything else going. And I'm sorry, TJ Watt is the best defensive player in the
he
entire
is.
league.
He is.
And it's not comparable. So
Yeah.
you try and do, well, this is this and this, that TJ Watt is the greatest defensive player in the league right now. And you're going to tell me that he's going to stand in the backfield 50 times
No, you
and get
can't.
touched 50 times. There's no
If
way.
that's Peyton's plan,
Can't do
he's
it.
going to get him killed. And I'm in your
Yeah.
camp. I think Sean Payton's a fraud. Let's
Yeah.
talk a little bit about the the Denver the Denver defense as opposed to the Pittsburgh offense. Again, their
Yeah.
defense doesn't. I mean, obviously they got they got a great cornerback. I mean,
Yep.
maybe the best in the league, or he's in the
Yeah.
top 2 or 3.
Yep.
But what do you think we need to see from the Steeler offense to combat that defense for the Broncos?
We have to run the ball down their throats. We just have to. I don't want to throw the ball too early. I think what Seattle showed us is that they're vulnerable in the run right now. And they were running all over Denver all day. If we can run inside the tackles, which the one thing that I would critique about week 1 is we ran way too much outside of the tackles. I think
We did, especially with Najee Harris. He's not built for that.
It's nuts. And like, I get that, like, Smith's background is Derrick Henry, and as much as us Steeler fans want to think that we have a Derrick Henry, we don't have a Derrick Henry. So for me, I think a key to breaking this defense is we got to run between the tackles, and I think that opens up the middle of the field. I don't think we're going to be able to throw to the sidelines the way that we were in week 1, just because the Falcons D sucks, is terrible. I think Surtain scares me with that. I think he's going to probably follow Pickens the whole day. So we need to get something else started. And that leads me to probably Pat Freiermuth. I mean, at some point we have to be able to get the ball in the middle of the field and show teams that we can threaten them there. We just haven't done it for 3 years. So I think for us to show up and break a pretty decent Denver defense, I think we got to run the ball between the tackles, down their throat, give Naj like 100 carries again. We can see that he can take it when he's healthy. And hopefully Warren gets back in step and we can hit them again the same way that we did last year. I just think that we kind of sometimes get stuck in this weird cycle where we think that we got to get the ball to the hashes and then we start to hurt ourselves. And against a defense like this that I think could be sneaky good, I think we just need to hit them hard between the tackles first and set that tone the way that I think the Seahawks did. Now that game was a lot closer, like you said, in score, but it did not look that close. And so I think, like, that's the thing that's weird, is that it was 26-20, but the reality is they beat Denver down.
They did
for 4 quarters. So
yeah, they did. And I agree with you. I think we have to establish the run. I think the Steeler offensive line is much better than the Denver offensive line, or the Seattle offensive line even. I think they'll be okay. Again, I'm curious to see what Warren will look like. Pickens is showing us that he is he's elite, and I think that's
Elite.
going to be
Yep.
scary. I would love to see the other wide receivers do a little bit of
Yeah.
something this week, but it's good. We're going to live and die on I think on our running game. If we can do that, hold the time of possession, make sure that they don't get anything rolling or moving. I think we're going to be okay. Again,
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a long time since we've had a good game planning offensive coordinator. Probably we haven't had a good one probably since Todd Haley,
I
which
was
is
literally just going to say
a
probably
million years
Todd
ago.
Haley.
By
Yeah.
the way, I don't know if you know this, right? He's my Twitter friend. Me and Todd talk every once in a while.
Really?
I don't know what he's doing now. Yeah, I need to
Wow.
find out. Maybe I'll see
Yeah,
if I can get
that's pretty
Todd
crazy.
Haley on the YINZER Bros podcast. I bet you we can get him to do that,
If
right?
you can get Todd Haley on the
Hey,
podcast,
why not? Maybe we can get
that
him
would
on
be
here.
crazy.
Yeah, but we'll see if we
Yeah,
can get him
hey.
on here. But they
Why not?
don't scare me at all. I think it's
No.
going to be fine. So again, again, we didn't talk about this injury too. We lost our punter this week, who was phenomenal. But I thank God that they did not bring back
I
whatchamacallit,
know.
number 6, big number
Yep.
6.
Uh-huh.
He looks better as a
Presley Harvin the
yeah, I'm
third.
glad they didn't bring him back. So I think the kid they brought back is going to be okay. So what is
Yeah.
your score prediction for the game this week, producer Ty?
I got 27-10 Steelers.
27-10.
I think we hit a stride. I think we figure out how to get in the end zone. I think Arthur Smith starts to dial up some much needed just A gap runs for Naj. If we get to the 15-yard line, we should run the ball 8 times. There is no reason to not give Naj the ball within the 15, and all that's going to do is open up everywhere else that Justin Fields can throw the ball. So I think we score 27. I think maybe 7 or 14 of that is off of defensive points. But
okay, I'm gonna go toward you, but I'm gonna be a little. I am a believer in the Steeler defense, and I'm a believer in the terrible Denver Bronco offense. I think the Steelers win 26-6. I don't think they get a tutty. I think they get a couple field goals.
Yep.
And ready for this? Here's my other prediction too. I think I think Justin Fields has 2 touchdowns this week. I think 1 throwing and 1 running. I love what they did when they were down there and they spread it out there. How can you defend that? You can't defend that. I mean,
you can't. And we've never had that.
Yeah.
Like literally never had that. And
there's
something crazy about that.
It is. When you look at his stats too, he's a big dude. Mm-hmm. He's bigger than I realized.
6'3", dude. He's 6'3",
he's a
like
big dude.
220. I mean,
when he gets small. Rolling, he could be pretty decent. So okay, we'll see what happens. Again, the Steelers play I think at 4:00 this week.
Yeah,
on Eastern
4:25.
time. So we'll be able to watch it. Any other things, producer Ty? You've been a great fill-in for Tim, who's
trying my best
doing stuff in Disney. Only God knows what he's doing.
Unlike my uncle counterpart, I have faith in the Steelers. So yes. I don't think this is a trap game. I think Tomlin comes out. We're going to roll them. There is no reason to not roll this Denver Broncos team. I just don't see a world. We could play 1,000 times. I think we beat them 1,000 times.
This team I like that.
It's
a breath of fresh air, Ty.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm always working with a curmudgeon.
Positivity.
Tim's a curmudgeon.
That's what I'm saying. Positivity.
He's a negative Nelly curmudgeon. That's just what he does.
I'm optimistic that Justin Fields is going to figure it out. I don't think so. Like that guy right there.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to figure it out. He may never play this year. He might not even play.
He may be
but
done.
I think Justin Fields can. It's crazy to think that the Bears did not do anything with him or did not help him out at all. And it was really sweet to see Caleb Williams
he stunk this week.
That dude was bad too. So hopefully Justin Fields looks really great in black and gold, and all Bears fans are just going to hate it forever.
That would be awesome. Bears, it's been tough to be great. Did you see, we talked about this last week too, to have Notre Dame lose to, lose to, like Northern Illinois?
NIU. Northern Illinois University.
That was great. Coaches crying. Everything's great.
Know.
And all my friends that are Notre Dame guys.
I told them.
All
It was
I think he
awesome.
played for Notre Dame too. The coach
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
Which made it even sweeter.
It's
All
nuts.
right, that is our score prediction. Again, thank you for hanging out with the Yinzer Bros with our special guest producer Ty. Again, if you like what you hear, check out all of our ways to get the Yinzer Bros podcast. Pass it along to all your friends, your neighbors, your enemies, whoever it is. Again, we're the Yinzer Bros. I'm TJ. I'm here with Ty today. Stay classy, Pittsburgh.
Still number one out here. All right.
We'll see you guys.